Yo, what's up everyone? Today I'm going to be showing you how to remix Light You Up by Griz Tape B. If you want to grab the full project file, it's going to be over on my Patreon. I'm going to be doing a remake once a month, as well as putting up a couple project files from recent remixes I just did. So if you want to head over there, you can grab this project file plus a bunch of other goodies. Let's just get into the video. So the first sound here is going to be this yoy. Sounds like this. This sound is basically pretty simple, but there's a couple techniques that I've found that makes your yoys sound a lot better. We have two saw waves layered on top of each other. One is going to filter 1 and one is going to filter 2. And then oscillator B is a little bit quieter. The random is going to be down for both of these. Oscillator C is a saw wave with an octave up and a fifth, which is 7 notes up. And then we have some Geiger noise with the level around 20. And then we got the pitch up a little bit. The main part that comes from this yoy sound is going to be this filter with the movement of the cutoff moving at a high resonance. Cutoff is at 118 and then it goes up to 280 and then the resonance is at 82%. This on the cutoff for LFO1, and then for LFO2 we have another modulation on the cutoff. This one's going backwards, so the first one is going to go up and then this one's going to go back down. LFO5 is also doing some movement as well. So these three are kind of modulating this cutoff and resonance. And then the effects are really simple. Boost at 500 hertz and then another one at 653. The thing that I was going to tell you about making your sound design a lot more like fit into your track a lot better, using a Max for Live device called pitch converter, which I'll leave in the description, but it basically allows you to check the frequency of whatever note. For example, this is playing a D. If I go into the effects, the sample and hold here is at 880, and that's going to be a fifth of D, because a fifth of D is A, that is 880. So it's just going to make filters or any like effect that you apply just to sit better in the note that you're playing. So basically when you're making a yoy, you're going to have a saw wave or square wave going into like a high resonance filter, which is moving, and then you're going to have distortion. Normally a lot of people will do down sample, which you'll get something like this without it. But the thing is, with down sample, I don't really like some of the high resonances you get sometimes. I feel like the sample and hold gives the same sound, but it's a little bit cleaner. And then I have another sample and hold, which is at 1760, which is gonna be an octave up of the first sample and hold. So it just gives it a little bit more tonality. And then this phaser, which is going to give it some better tone. This frequency is also tuned to 205, and then it's at 35% mix. Very subtle. And then I just have some movement on this filter here, boosting up this resonance. First it's a little bit ducked, and then it comes up, and it's also moving just to give it a little bit more movement and tone. But yeah, this preset will be on my Patreon as well as the entire project file. I'll just go into the processing really quick. It's quite simple. Just a little bit of EQ. This is pretty important because I heard in the Tape B song, just some of these resonance were getting a little bit out of hand. So if I take it off, just kind of cleans up the sound a lot. And then we have some overdrive, which I really love using overdrive on a lot of my sounds because it'll basically saturate whatever frequency and fill in that space. This utility is doing nothing. This is a rack I made for spectral time. This is a stereo, just giving it some stereo, so some dimension expander with the utility with the sides all the way up, and then just cutting the lows. And then we have a dry mono version of it, and then I'm just bringing down some of the width here after, and then just some saturator on soft sine and 2 multiband compressions. So that's basically the yoy sound. I'm gonna go into this spoink one, which is a lot more complicated than it sounds. It's 3 layers. We have the first layer, which is like the spoinky top layer. And then we have a noise layer, which is just pretty much white noise. And then we have a saw layer, which is underneath. We're just gonna fill it out because without the saw wave, it's kind of empty, and then with it, fills it up a lot. So the main kind of setup here is we're doing a sine wave sub. We have oscillator B, which is 2 octaves and then a fifth. This is going to be like the main tone where it's coming from, and then it's being PD from oscillator C, which is at 0 octave. So you're basically FMing a high pitch saw wave by a low pitch saw wave. Basically on the front page, it's just this setup. There's no actual LFOs linked to anything. Make sure that oscillator B is going into bus 1, and then the sub oscillator is going into the main. Bus 1 is going into the main as well. So on bus 1, we have a filter, which is a low pass 6, pretty high resonance, and the mix is going to be at 72. And you can kind of just copy these settings here. Resonance, and then we have a boost on the EQ at 485, which is going to give it some more movement, and then some overdrive saturation with just 1 stack, and then we have a multiband compression at 3.8, and then this is where a lot of the sound is going to come in, is these 2 acid ladder filters. This one is going to be on a different LFO, so this was going to be at 2616 and then 2153, and then you can just copy these settings for the LFO, and then the resonance is at 2%, and then there's the settings there. And then on the top one, we have this on the resonance. So we have a different shape. So those 2 are kind of helping make that spoinky sound. And then we just have a slight EQ just to clean it up. The sub and the spoink bass goes into this main, which also has another ladder filter. So like I said, it's a lot of filtering. So then LFO2 is going to be at here, on here. Here's the settings, and then reso, that's the settings there. And the resonance is going to be on LFO1, going like that. Cool. And then we just have a really big peak for some reason at this specific frequency, which gave it even more spoink. And then another overdrive with 2 stacks, drive at 19 and mix at 18, a little bit more EQ, and then 1 more filter with an LFO just to control it a little bit at the end, and then 1 more compressor. So we have this EQ, phase distortion, absolutely no drive. Tone is there at 65. Some EQ just to cut some of these frequencies here in the mid range and the low mids. More EQing. It's very, very specific EQing just to get it closer to that Tape B and Griz. Some soothe, erosion. Here's the settings on that. Utility, just turning it down a little bit. Some more EQing, saturator, even more EQing. It's just a lot of EQing to get it to sit right. Some of that harsh frequencies up top, and some EQ. I'll put the project file over my Patreon, so if you don't want to recreate it all from scratch, you can just get it over there. And then it's just white noise, simple white noise with some LFO on it, so at the end of it, it just ducks out. And then we have a saw bass, saw wave with 0 octave, and then a layer of 1 at plus octave, and then 1 with 2 octaves up and a fifth. It's white noise, and then the sub, and then all of these are just going straight into filter 1, which is just going to roll off some of that high end at 2577, and then that is going into the main, which pretty much is a very basic sound. It just has some hyperdimension, some soft saturation distortion, compression, and then a filter which is doing actually nothing. It's just cutting off those very, very highs. This is one of the most important things on this sound, is this phase distortion. I use it on a lot of these kind of Griz Tape B type of sounds. A lot of them use like phase distortion. Without it, it sounds like this, and then with it, it just gives that little low mid crunch and better tonality overall. Some EQing, cutting out the lows, and just some really specific EQing just to make it sit in the mix better. Some overdrive, just to fill in the space there, as I said, and then some more EQing, cutting off the high end and some of these mid-range frequencies. So that's all of that, and then they go and process together all of these sounds together. They get some compressed room reverb with these settings. This is a stock Ableton preset. Some soothe, once again, this is on the default setting. some EQ, cutting out the low mids, and then shaping up the sound a little bit more. And then bass mono, we got some soft sine saturation, and then as I did before on the last sound, just 2 multiband compressions, time at 1000, and then pushing one of them into the other. That's basically that sound. I'll have a full breakdown of all the sounds on my Patreon, because I remade pretty much all the sounds from this track. And I also remade the drums. If you want to have it on my Patreon, I'll be having one remake a month. If you want to recommend what remake I should do next, just drop it in the comments. And then I'll be giving out some project files from some flips, as well as some racks and other goodies over there. So if you want to head over to my Patreon, the link will be in the description. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video.